Mr. Woodruff permitted them to name the dining hall the Robert W. Woodruff Dining Hall. And so on the Saturday before camp was to open, Ivan Allen rode down on a Saturday morning. Camp was going on Sunday afternoon with Mr. Woodruff to see it. All dirt roads, wasn't a thing paved in there. Here's Mr. Woodruff in the biggest Fleetwood Cadillac I've ever seen, limousine, bouncing on that dirt road, pulled up in front of the dining hall. He and Mr. Allen, Mayor Allen, got out, and they walked into the dining hall, and Country Gorman and I were there to greet them. And Country was telling him how magnificent the dining hall was and all the details about it. And Mr. Woodruff looked around the place. He says, "Well, Country, this is very nice. But what I really want to see is, where do the boys stay?" And Country said, "Well, Mr. Woodruff, they're back down in the woods in troop sites." And Mr. Woodruff said, "Well, I'd like to see them." And Country said, "Well, Mr. Woodruff, we don't have any roads back in there. It's just a trail." Mr. Woodruff said, "My driver can get me anywhere I need to go. I want to see the troop sites." So we all loaded up into the big Fleetwood, and we headed down the dirt, dusty trail. And we passed this A-frame building, which also had a suspended roof and flying buttresses, and that was the trading post. And Mr. Woodruff turned to Country and he said, "Country, what's that building?" And Country said, "Mr. Woodruff," he called him Mr. Bob, by the way. He said, "Mr. Bob, that's the trading post. That's where the boys will get their craft supplies and their Coca-Cola." Mr. Woodruff said, "I want to see it." So the car stopped. We all got out. There were two big doors. And those two big doors were propped open with two cases of Pepsi-Cola on either side. Well, Mr. Woodruff didn't notice it until he stumbled over it. And he looked down and he saw the cases of Pepsi. And he turned to Country, which had turned white. I knew he was fainting or having a stroke or a heart attack. He said, "Country, what's this?" And about that time, a very dear friend of mine, who was an older professional scouter by the name of Charlie Patterson, who had one eye, and he comes out with this green eye shade. And he comes out, he was the business manager, and he was just fussing. He says, "Country, I've been trying to call you. I cannot get Coca-Cola in here. I've got 1,000 boys coming in here tomorrow afternoon, and we don't have anything for them to drink. I've tried to call the Coca-Cola company. I cannot get a route salesman to respond. And the only drink I got are these four cases of Pepsi, which I got up here at Jones' store, which was about 3 miles outside of the camp." Well, Mr. Woodruff went over to Charlie, put his arm around it, and said, "Now, son, don't you worry about a thing. I can take care of this." 3:30 that afternoon, it was like military maneuvers. Dust from the dirt roads just flying everywhere. I think Mr. Woodruff had gotten hold of the Coca-Cola bottling plant manager here in Atlanta, and they emptied out everything they had in the parking lot. There were all kinds of trucks and pickups and fountains. That was the best supplied source of Coca-Cola anywhere in the world.